What's up, guys? I have to admit my morale for doing this is pretty low right now. I know you guys are tired of hearing about it. It's just been hard to find the drive to do something every day that just really doesn't it doesn't sustain itself. Here going into the summer, I'm going to be dropping over $200 on new games, and honestly, I don't think it's going to work out. I'm probably just going to have to end up quitting. But today I wanted to talk about the overall presence or public knowledge of the Vita. As you know, I got back from Fanime about a week and a half ago by the time you see this, and it's pretty sad. Like, they're just, besides the fact that there really weren't many people with Vitas there at all, I'm not exaggerating when I say it was probably like 99%, maybe like 99.5% of the people there that had dedicated, handheld gaming devices, they all had 3DS, and I saw maybe about a dozen people tops that had a Vita. It's just kind of goes to show how just the thing has no visibility at all. I even had some people come up to me. I spent a lot of time charging my Vita. It's the only smart device that I have, so in order to contact some people, that was the best way. So I spent a lot of dead time during the convention just hanging out at the wall where they have little outlets where you could charge your devices, and I had some people come up to me and they're asking me what I was playing when I was playing Tokiden, and they all thought it was Monster Hunter at first glance, and they didn't know what it was. A lot of them didn't even know what console I was playing on. I thought it was kind of a shame. The PSP, it wasn't really the most hyped device out there. The DS, I think it did a little better in terms of, it had a lot more casual-oriented games out there. Whereas the PSP and the Vita are all pretty much hardcore gaming devices. And, it's missing a lot of the big franchises. I heard the Call of Duty that was released, for launch wasn't that great. A lot of the Western games that they put out before they just gave up on it, didn't really light the world on fire, at least not the gaming world. I don't know. I think it's just interesting to see. It's such a high-quality device. It's got a lot of really great games out there, but I think the problem is, you really have to expand your horizons if you want to like the Vita at all. I play a lot of niche-oriented games. I get told a lot, the Vita has no games. There's nothing but indie trash on it and shitty ports and stuff like that. But yet, I have like almost 40 games for the thing. And that's not even counting the stuff that they've given out on PS Plus. PS Plus is a great supplement to the Vita if you have one. I wouldn't say so much now, but if you've been subscribed to PS Plus for like the past, I'd say 1.5 or 2 years, you've gotten pretty much all the major big, AAA and indie titles on PS Plus. Obviously, PS Plus for the Vita has gotten pretty lacking over the past couple months just because they're kind of at the point where they've given out almost every single major game for it. If you've been subscribed ever since they started giving away Vita games, their offerings lately haven't been that great. But I just think it's interesting. It's a console that actually makes a fair amount of money. The Vita has such a huge attach rate. I'm definitely a walking testament to that statement. I may not play a lot of the big name popular games, but I buy something for my Vita at least once a month, if not more. I bought Shovel Knight at the beginning of this month with my Patreon money, and I haven't gotten too far into that. I've been busy with other things. I'm preparing for the convention, fixing the computer and stuff. But almost every week, month, I buy a new game for it, and I think that's what a lot of people do. I saw a lot of people. The few people I saw with a Vita, they were all playing really niche-based games too. I saw a guy and what appeared to be his girlfriend or something, or significant other, who knows? But they were playing God Eater 2 Burst. I thought that was pretty cool to see. I went the whole convention hoping I could meet some cool Tokiden people to play the game with. Besides Swillow, who he's not always available. He's busy with other things. I didn't meet one person. I think it's really sad to see, the Vita just doesn't have any physical presence. They really failed to advertise it. They gave it a really big push. Right when it launched, they had a lot of big-name Western AAA titles, which is what a lot of the naysayers always say that they want. But, they have to realize a lot of those games weren't that great anyway. I heard the Uncharted game that they put out on Vita wasn't really that spectacular. The Wipeout game was like had a pretty choppy frame rate. Kind of went against the super fast pace that they were going for. I heard Call of Duty was like outsourced to some random developer, and a lot of the hardcore Call of Duty fans didn't really like it. You can say what you want. They did make an honest attempt to try to cater to people who only play Western-based games. As it stands now, they already made an announcement today saying that pretty much it's become a legacy console, which means that Sony is not going to be supporting it anymore. They're probably gonna throw a couple bones towards some indie developers and some Japanese developers to help them localize the games and or port them on Vita, but they've pretty much indirectly saying that they've rage quit on supporting it. I still love the console. I like the variety that they have on there. I know lately it's been a lot of mobile ports and stuff like that, which doesn't really appeal to the hardcore gamer. But there is some cool stuff coming out on the horizon. I've been looking at Xanadu Next. That looks pretty cool. There's a new beat 'em up from the Tamsoft. They make the Senran Kagura Vita games. I know I didn't really like Shinobi Versus, but if that one turns out to be better, I don't even know what it's called. I might check that out. Geometry Wars 3, I know that's not really a big title to a lot of people, but having a twin-stick shooter on the Vita, it's like the first handheld console that actually has two analog sticks, not like a little dinky little nub like, the new 3DS is going with. I think that's going to be a pretty big title for some of the, niche gamers on there. I hope that they're able to get it to run at a pretty stable frame rate. I know WrestleGun got ported to the Vita and it runs at 30 FPS, and I'm not much of a frame rate hog. I don't really care too much, but for a game like that, it definitely makes a world of difference. I do still have some things on the horizon. I would love it if they would announce Tales of Tempest R, if they would just finish their reimagination series like they plan to. But the chances of that are pretty slim. I've had some people come into my stream and ask, should I get a Vita? I like your Tokiden videos and your Tales videos and stuff. My response to those people is pretty much, if you come into it not expecting to have big name AAA Western games, if you have a pretty broad horizon of games that you play, if you're accepting of indies and stuff, the indies that do show up on the Vita, I'd say a pretty big chunk of them are actually the more high quality ones. They've put out some crap lately, but there's still great stuff on there, like Velocity 2X, The Binding of Isaac Rebirth, Ollie Ollie 2, Dust Force, even though Dust Force isn't the greatest port, Phantom Breaker Battlegrounds. There's just a huge treasure trove of like really underappreciated games on there. If you come into it, wanting to expand your horizons and play some of that stuff, it's great. But I'm not really sure what the future for it holds. It's doing pretty well in Japan, mainly because, the way their lifestyle is. Their lifestyle is pretty similar to mine. They take public transportation everywhere, so having a console that can at least partially provide decent console ports, indie games, and its own original exclusive games, it does pretty well there. I think we'll see support for it for many more years to come. As you know, they're just barely now starting to kill off support for the PSP in Japan. Tokiden Kiwami is pretty much probably the last major big PSP title that we're going to see. So I have high hopes for it. I do have a capture card in it. You guys donated for that last year, and I will still be using it pretty regularly. I'll be using it for Tokiden, whatever else comes out, Vita port review series and stuff like that. But I love the thing. I take it with me everywhere. I don't even have a smartphone. I didn't even take my laptop with me to that convention. I was away from home for almost a week, and that thing was, in some cases, my only means of contact with some of my friends. I think it works pretty well. I know, pretty much everyone and their cat has a smartphone right now. I like the smartphone, ish capabilities that it has. I'm able to check my email. I'm able to send messages, do stuff like that. It has couple little productivity, non-gaming apps on there. It has YouTube, it has Skype and stuff like that. If you want to get one, I recommend just getting one from GameStop. I think it's like $140 right now. It's a pretty good price. One of the main obstacles to buying one is you have to be committed to it because of how expensive the memory cards are. I was lucky enough that my family helped me to get a 64 gig memory card. I know that holds some people back. It's kind of just dependent on how often you're willing to delete things. Whether if you're someone who has like a couple hundred games on Steam and you want to have them all available at all times, it's probably not the console for you. If you're someone who's willing to put up with backing up the save on your content manager on your computer, because if you delete a game on Vita, it deletes the save too, and deleting it when you're done, you can probably get by with a 16 or 32 gig. But overall, that probably wouldn't run you more than about $220. It's your call, but I'm going to be supporting the console on this channel for as long as I continue doing this. I have to admit, I don't know what's going to happen after the Summer of Style due to how hard I'm trying to turn this into a sustainable source of income, and it's not working too well right now. But we'll see what happens. I would like to support it for many more years to come. Thanks for watching. Peace. Oh, and if you want to help me with my new capture card and stuff, I guess my link's in the description. See you guys later.